Kind of looks like we're live. It's a delay. To see where everyone is.
Message it to me, text it.
Yeah.
I think they actually have it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Somebody said test is working. All right. That's good. It's good the angle's right. And then I gotta get my coffee real fast. Okay, let me get coffee. We'll be here for 2 hours. So. Guess I can do it. Oh my gosh, here we go. Okay. All right, I'm sorry I had to get coffee. All right, I guess I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna narrate the whole time, but this is how I sign books. And what I usually do is I just have a ton of supplies, so you can't really see everything off camera, but I've got like brushes and pens, every kind of random supply I could pull out of the studio. Usually I travel with these to a convention, and I just bring a big bag full of stuff, usually smaller, a little bag like this, with signing supplies. And I try to sign, I have a lot of books to sign, so 160 books so far. Is that how many? Anyway, I'm doing 160 of these, and I'm gonna try to do every one different. My rationale when signing books is when I do a sketch in it, one is never the same, and so that's why I have all these different supplies. So let's just get started. I use like a Sumi ink, and I just squirt it into a little cup here and use a brush. Spit a bunch of ink out. And then when I'm on the road or signing at stores or something, I have these brushes that I use that have ink inside. It's a little less messy and it won't spill. I remember the last time I used a thing like this was in Baltimore with Jeff Lemire, and we were signing, and he was drawing in somebody's sketchbook, and he spilled the ink all over the guy's sketchbook, and then all over his pants, and that was the last time we put open ink out on the table. All right, so let's draw. The idea here too is if you ordered one of these books, you're going to get to see your drawing be sketched in, or your sketch being made. And I apologize for the first few. These are the warm-ups. The first few of the day, and then the last few. But since we're recording it, I'll try to do better on those. The same what? Oh, mug? Yeah. Do you know this? Our mug is from Twin Peaks. It's the diner, the Double R Diner from Twin Peaks. We went there when at a convention. It was in Seattle a few years ago, and when we went, we took a road trip up to Twin Peaks. We'd wanted to go there forever, and finally did. And it was great. The diner was there, and we went to all the sites, found a map online, took a bunch of pictures. What inspired Three Story? Three Story was that was actually inspired by my dad's cousin, who had a tumor near his pituitary gland that was caused him to grow. He had like a big growth spurt. So in high school, he was like already like 7 feet tall or something, and then anyway, he just got really big. They found this tumor, realized what it was, and cut it out. And so otherwise he would have kept growing. Kind of like the giant of Illinois, which is another. That was inspiration after the fact. I'd known the story, but I hadn't really thought about it until I realized we had a family member with a similar condition. So I remember we were at a family get-together up in New York, and we were driving home back to St. Louis, and I'm in the car, which is the best place for ideas. Like a long road trip is the best place, and I just started thinking about him and like, well, what would happen if he kept growing, you know? And then I sort of wrote the whole story in my head on the way home, like all the big parts of it. And then by the time I got home, I had a book idea. But it was interesting because in a lot of ways too, that book was inspired by one of my favorite books from 1986. I just did a podcast about it called Concrete. And in Concrete, it's about a guy who has this thick skin, like the Thing from Fantastic Four, and sort of how he deals with it. And what I liked about that was it took like a fantastical idea and just sort of asked, what if, what would it be like in real life, for real, if that happened? And so I always liked that idea of taking like one crazy idea or one sort of weird or sci-fi idea and then just applying it as if, what would happen in real life. All my books kind of have that in a way. I just try to imagine what would really happen. Yeah, and that book was also one where, and I joke about this, every comic creator I know, like Amir, Robin Diddy, anybody that's Jeffrey Brown. I know that everybody that's had a kid at some point, when they write graphic novels, they have one of those. They have a book that's inspired by having a kid, or it's informed by it, and everybody's book has a different one, but you can kind of spot it. But I can anyway. And for me, that was my. We just had a kid book, and trying to figure out how to deal with that. It's cool.
How do you convince therapists to make some hard-headed mind management?
It'll be easy to do. I designed a box set, a big oversized book with everything in it and all this extra stuff, and then we decided to wait. So we're waiting a little bit because there's some other mind management stuff that's coming up that's unannounced, and so that will be. That's why it's delayed. We kind of want to time it right.
Is your writing process different if you're writing something that you draw versus extending what you draw?
Yeah, my writing process, it's definitely different. And it's different not just for me, if I'm drawing it or someone else, but also it depends on who the artist is that's drawing it. If I'm drawing it, my scripts are very loose. They're almost like outlines. It's as little as I can get away with sending to the editor to get the book approved. Is what I write for myself. But for when I'm working with an artist, I definitely do more. And I don't write like Alan Moore style, like one-page descriptions per panel, but I do give a little more information just to sort of make it clear what the story is. Because I don't have to do as much for an editor, because they kind of trust me and they know that how the story's going to be. But for an artist, they need to know what to draw and what's going on, and why things are happening. And then depending on the artist, I'll leave it a little bit more open, or just have general ideas. But some artists like to have more description of layouts and that kind of thing. So I try to write for the artist. And that's the beauty of working with artists more than once. Like I've worked with Tyler Jenkins a lot, and now David Rubin. And, once you get that experience working with an artist, you kind of see what they do and what they like, and you can write to them rather than kind of guessing.
Who is your favorite artist to work with?
My favorite artist, that's a trick question. I think I've been really lucky. Everybody I've worked with, I love working with, because they all bring something totally different to it. So I know, like, with working with David Rubin, he's just a maniac. Like, I'll send him an outline ahead of time and just be like, here's kind of what we're doing, and then he'll send character sketches and ideas, visual ideas, and just have a lot of like extra stuff, input. And then so he's great. Tyler Jenkins and his wife Hillary, they're great. Just because the layouts, I don't give them a lot of direction on layout. I just let them sort of come up with it, and I try to give them space because of the painting and everything. I just want to give them room. Wilfredo on Bang, he's just so good. His lines are so smooth and good. I had fun with him. I'm just listing everybody and how great they are because there's no favorite. But no, I think when I'm co-writing stuff with Jeff Lemire, that's some of the most fun, because we're really close friends, and it's we don't get to see each other very often. So when we are working on a book together, it gives us an extra chance to just kind of hang out and have some fun.
Multiple people want to know if there's any chance of you making more mind management related or other places there.
T-shirts. Gosh, T-shirts. How about more mind management books? I'm working on more mind management stories. But the T-shirts, the problem with the T-shirts are, it's just like sizes. I swear I order what I think will be right, and then we end up with like 50 extra smalls, or like we have too many extra larges, or we don't have any double X. So the sizing is a thing. But I guess we could do something on Redbubble or one of those. I order T-shirts all the time out there, and I think they're made to order or whatever. So I'll look into that. Let's put it on the list, the to-do list.
Someone else just said, my e-back in the day at SPX and bought an original page of Tuesday, it's still camera 8, displayed in my post, love it. Female character you just sketched, reminds me.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember what I sketched. It's weird to talk and draw at the same time. I don't know what I'm drawing.
Someone asked, where do you find the time to write? You have 6 best-selling series right now about to come out.
Yeah, I'll say 6 of them. Is that right? I don't know if it's 6. Is it Crimson Flower, Fear Case, Berserker, ENIAC? Oh yeah. Okay, so if you count the bad idea books, those bad idea books, I've been working on those for at least 2 years. Like some of those have been done for a while. I worked on those back before they'd announced anything. So yeah, the trick is to just I'm always working on something, and then depending on how fast the art comes in, sometimes they sit around for a while, or it takes the artist longer. And so that's why it seems like I'm doing a lot all at once, and I'm really probably writing maybe 3 things at the same time.
Someone from Australia needs to go back to safety. Wants to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Any plans to wire a comic set in Australia?
To do what? A comic set?
To wire a comic set?
Is it to set a story in Australia, or to rephrase that? I want to know what that means. I almost wore my Brisbane Lions, is it Australian football jersey today, but it's too cold out.
Another question. Hey Matt, super cool to see your Instagram be a bit more active. Any plans of starting to do another series together, like Part 8? Still my favorite book of yours, from start to finish.
We have talked about doing another book together. It probably wouldn't be a long series like that. But we have a couple ideas. We're talking about even like kind of collaborating on the story and doing something where we sort of, but I don't know. It's we're so busy. Charlene she's running Webster Wax, and she's designing, and I don't know how to say it all, scents and things for candles and lip balms and that kind of thing. So she has like a storefront now in her studio, and she's doing that kind of full time and enjoying it. So I don't want to disrupt her. I don't want to mess up her joy with monthly deadlines of comics.
Okay, Rock Comics, rephrase, any plans to write a comic book set in Australia?
I was just thinking about that yesterday, because we a couple of the bad idea stories, we were setting them in different locations, and then I tend to set stories in places I want to visit. So I was thinking about Australia and New Zealand, and then somebody texted me or tweeted something about Netherlands yesterday too, and so that's on my list. So Australia, Netherlands, New Zealand are on my. They're going to be stories set there. So yeah, good question, and yes, except I'm scared of scorpion. I had a dream about scorpion last night. And I don't like spiders, and I don't like any kind of poisonous creatures. So I'm a little scared to go to Australia, but I still would do it. But that's so funny. I would never remember the dream about that scorpion list. You'd ask that.
Alright, next question. Any dream project for a character that has not happened yet?
I want to write a book for Jeff Darrow. I've talked to him. We've been talking like for the last few years, and he came up to me and had been talking about mind management. He liked that, and so my dream would be to do that, but I know that I just want him to do what he does. So I think like my dream is to write for artists that I really love, but I know that like that's not my place. like Jeff he just needs to do what he wants to do, you know. But my dream is for him or somebody like I'm trying to think of who else to just ask me like, hey, write me a 24-page comic, and then I would do it. But yeah, there's no character or anything. I don't really think about characters, other people's characters and stories. And I don't know why. I think I like telling my own stories, but I like being asked. Like when I did a Spider-Man comic, they asked me to write one, and so I was like, okay, I'll think of something, and then it was fun to do, but I didn't really have a Spider-Man story. Other than, I do have one. This is a lie. Legion of Superheroes. I have a really great Legion of Superheroes big idea that would be a whole series that I would do. It would be the only thing that I don't own that I would want to do at some point.
Someone said, when I was in college and what to go, did you have a board game, build band,
Say it again.
Did you were in college and what to go, did you have the board game, build band?
Bill Band. No, when I was at Webster, it was 93 to 95, and then and I was only in the art department. So if he wasn't in the art department, and then Webster Girls High School, I went there for only 1 year, and if you weren't in the art classes or the photography class or the AP literature classes, I didn't know you. And even then, if you were in those classes, I probably didn't know you because I was too shy to talk to anybody. I had like 3 friends.
Someone else requested that you do stickers on their body.
Stickers, yeah. No, let's put that on the list too, because I love stickers and I love T-shirts. And you know what I'll say? The hardest thing to design is a T-shirt, because I can't figure out what you have to have like a really strong image and it has to work well. I'm really picky about T-shirt designs, and so like making one of my own is always really hard. Like I do one and then I end up hating it. But yes, we'll add that to the list. We will do that this year because we need new T-shirts.
Somebody asked, what's the first comic that you bought?
The first comic that I bought, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I can tell you. Well, based on the comic, I can tell you what year it was. I have to look it up, but my first, it was probably G.I. Joe #1 and Daredevil after Elektra died. So it was not 181, it was like 182, 183, 184, like a handful of issues after that. Those are my first issues. But the first issues I read were probably my brother's, sneaking into his closet to read his X-Men where Phoenix died. But I don't think I actually got to read him because he wouldn't let me touch his comics. And to his credit, I was a grubby kid with dirty hands, and I ended up just going to sleep at night with comics next to me on my bed, and they would get messed up pretty bad. Like G.I. Joe #1, I still have it. The cover's off of it. 'Cause I just would sleep on it.
Okay, someone asked, what is the difference in your project writing for yourself versus a long read?
The difference in the process, really, you definitely have to have, there's two things. One is you have to have all of the details figured out ahead of time. You have to know exactly what's happening on every page, and before all at once, because you have to type it out, and the artist has to give it to the artist, and he has to draw it all at once. For me, when I'm writing for myself, I generally know what's going to happen on the page, but a lot of times I'll just have an outline. I'm like, well, this is the scene where this happens on this page, and I'll figure out that layout and the angles and everything while I'm drawing it, or like I'll do a thumbnail. When it's time to draw that page, I'll do a thumbnail of that page, just sort of figure out what's happening, and I add panels or take panels away, or I'll lay out that page and like it, and then realize that that scene needs to be 2 pages, so I'll just add another page. So it's a little bit more loose and free form when I'm writing for myself, because I can adjust the art as I go, have an idea along the way. But when I'm writing for somebody else, I can't really have ideas along the way. Those ideas that happen along the way, they have to happen only during the writing process. So I have to be, it's a little more planning involved when I'm working with an artist, which is, it's fine, it keeps you honest. And I feel like when I'm writing for myself, a lot of times depending on what I read that day or that week, it may change what I end up, how the story goes, and so it becomes a little more fluid.
Any more creative comic bonds coming up with Omaha Bound, all of my management, and you sell on that one, and
I'm almost out of books, so like I know I was having to bind a bunch of my books, and like my management, I had a ton of single issues, so I had them put those together so I could get a few copies and sell the rest. And I don't know, I'll have to look. I do have a ton of Grass Kings. What do we have back there? Department H. I thought we were going to do Department H. I think we are still doing it. Department H. We just haven't gotten all the books together yet. Yeah, there's plans to do a few of my own, and then as far as my personal collection, I only have 2 long boxes left, and I think I got a run of George Perez's Wonder Woman, and then what else is back there? I can't remember. And Conan. I have 200 issues of Conan. I still have to get bound. I'm missing the early Barry Windsor Smith issues, because I want to put those sets together, and it's kind of expensive, so I don't want to buy really good copies that get bound and ruined. It's hard to find sort of beat up copies that are cheap.
sorry if someone asked this, but will the mini comics in Nightmares Before be collected as a comic in the future, or just exclusive to the game?
That's a good question, and I haven't really decided. I want to do, the project I'm working on that's sort of a long-term one is a box set that has every single mind management thing in it, and so that would include those, and there's no reason why it can't. It's just a matter of logistics and how do you put it in a book, and then because they're small, or do we just recreate the little mini comics and put those in the box set, which we could do. It just makes it more expensive. So I'm trying to figure out the design of it. But yeah, when we eventually do the box set, it will have every single piece of mind management thing that's ever happened. But what's cool about those little mini comics is they're little mini standalone stories that sort of flesh out some mind management stuff, but they also work with the game. So like the stuff that comes in the box with it, they sort of explain like why and how the game is happening. So to me, it's almost weird to have them without the game because they work better with the game. And there's actually story. The board game has a story around the outside edge of the box, and then there's some other hidden stuff in there. That so the box is almost like it's just, the whole thing is like another issue of mind management in a way. I don't know if that's such a vague non-answer. The answer is, I guess, we'll see.
How do you find it's what the artist you work with?
It's a lot of it's just, gosh, it's different every time. Like you bump into people at conventions, or you go to dinner with a publisher, and then you talk to people, and then some of it's editors being like, hey, I know this artist, he's really good, or she's really good, and you look at the stuff, and then you email or call and talk to them. So sometimes you meet people that way. With, I think with David Rubin, I was a fan of his stuff already. And when I pitched Ether to Dark Horse, I was going to draw that one. And then when I was talking to the editor, he's like, hey, this artist David is really good. I was like, oh, I know who he is. And he's like, he's available. And he liked my stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I don't really have anything for him except for, because I was doing Ether next. But then I started looking at his art again, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I think David would do this better than I would. He's just a better fit for it. And so I decided to not draw Ether, and invited David to do it, and he was excited about it. So then it just worked out. So I was a fan of his already, and then it just happened that he was doing stuff with Dark Horse. I think they were publishing his graphic novels in English, and so they already had kind of a relationship I didn't know about. So that's him. Tyler Jenkins is an interesting one. He is somebody who I knew about and liked his art again, but it's like I'd never met him. And then when I was working with Boom, I guess that was my first book with Boom, they called me because they had known about my work, and they asked me if I wanted to collaborate with him because he had a story idea at Grass Kings. He had this idea for a story, but they I guess they wanted, he wanted help, I guess, on it, or fleshing it out. I'm not sure exactly what his end of it was. All I know is like, hey, here's like a general outline of Grass Kings, of these characters that sort of live off the grid and everything. Would you want to be involved in it and write it? And I remember at the time I was like, no, I don't want to. This is Tyler's story. I don't want to interfere with it. And it's like, what am I going to add to it? And I looked at the outline, and then I talked to Tyler, and I was like, Tyler, I don't feel comfortable taking your idea and then messing with it. And he's like, no. He's like, they want somebody to come in and do something to it, and I want somebody to do that too. So he asked me, and I was like, okay. And then I looked. The outline was great. It was these characters that sort of live, and he had sort of the idea of the brothers and and sort of the interpersonal relationships, and these characters that live off the grid, and then. And I was like, well, the only thing I would add to this story would be like a murder. This story needs a murder. And so then he's like, yeah, that's it. And so we sort of, I wrote a new outline with a murder, and then there might have been a serial killer in there. It's a little bit of a spoiler. And I just added a little bit more violence to it. That's all it really needed. There's more to it than that, but that's how I met Tyler. And who else? Wilfredo on Bang. He was somebody who had done work with Jeff Lemire, and so I'd seen his stuff on wasn't Black Hammer. I can't remember the other one. Don't put me on the spot with names and titles. But he'd done a book with Jeff, and then I really liked his art, and then I talked to Jeff. I was like, how is he to work with? And he said he's amazing. And then I met Wilfredo at Heroes Con, and we went to dinner and talked about the story, and I had the idea for Bang, and he was really great. Wilfredo's such a good person. And so that was how we met. Who am I forgetting? Oh yeah, so Matt Smith, he's another guy who I knew about from Barbarian Lords, and through Brian Hurt, who I share a studio with. He had his book, and he got me on to Matt, and it just happened that Boom had been having Matt do covers or something. I don't know how Boom knew, but through my editor, they asked what I thought about working with him, and I was like, oh, I'm a huge fan of his, and I can make Brian jealous by working with him, because he was a fan of him before I knew who he was, and so that's how we hooked up. And that one, it was through an editor and a publisher. But Matt's been great too. Oh, and Matt Wisniewski on Crimson Flower, what's so funny is the last convention I went to was Heroes in North Carolina, and I bought the book The Freak from Ad House, and actually I didn't buy it. I just went over there because they always have something good, and Chris, who is the publisher there, I was like, hey, what's new? And then he gave me that one, and I was like, this is great, and I loved it. And then 6 months later, I'm talking to my editor at Dark Horse, Daniel Chabon, and we're talking about an artist for Crimson Flower, and his name came up, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, what is? I didn't recognize the name because I don't remember names very well, and then I looked up his work. I was like, oh, The Freak is the book that I love at Heroes, and I was like, well, for sure, let's do something if he's available. And he was. He's great. But then anybody I work with like that, I try to talk with them on the phone, and just like, so it's not just they're handed a script and they're working in a vacuum and everything. I try to keep the lines of communication open and make sure it's a collaboration. Yeah, Ron Garney and Berserker. Yeah, Ron Garney. Yeah, and again, we did like a big search for artists, because Keanu and I have been working for like a year and a half on the book, and trying to find an artist, and it was difficult because I'm sort of picky about art and what I like, and then Keanu was, I feel like he was even more specific about what he wanted, so we really had to search to find something that we both liked. And it was good. It was fun. It was fun to look at art and talk about art with Keanu, and then he's coming from like a non-comic art. Like, he grew up reading comics and he loves comics, but he has like he kind of has an eye for art, like you would have like fine art, or like coming from not within the medium. And so when he would react to art, it was definitely more like a fine artist would. And so it was kind of neat to see the art through his eyes. Do I personally pay the artist? I don't. That's the goal of getting a publisher, is the publisher pays both of us. So I'll get a page rate for the pages I write, and then the artist they'll pay the artist as well as we go, and then that money comes. The way it works is the books sell, and then the publisher gets their money back from the book sales, and then anything that's left over is royalties, which we get extra at the end if we sold enough. But if we don't sell enough, then the publisher hopefully at least gets their money back, and then we don't make anything extra. But that way the artist can afford to work on it and get paid while they're working on it. So can the writer. the only exception would be the Kickstarter, the Cosmic Detective, which we did with David and Jeff. Any Kickstarter thing like that, the money from the Kickstarter we use to pay the artists. So we paid David, and what other Kickstarter did we do? For the Mind Management Kickstarter, the board game, I didn't get paid for that. I'm just I'll take back end on that one. So if we make money on the book, then I'll get money. That was definitely a labor of love, just to do a board game that was completely different.
Did the 615,000 copies trip you out? Deputy Herman video is hilarious.
Oh, which videos?
The Pee Wee Herman video and like selling
Oh, yeah.
so many copies.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's funny. I didn't really think about it. And what's funny is, yeah, I don't know. I'm always so focused on the story and getting the work done and hitting deadlines. I don't think about the outside stuff. And so when they announced that, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But I was like, I've got to get issue 5 finished, like the scripts do. And then I talked to Keanu about it, and he's like, well, it puts a lot of pressure on us to make sure we deliver. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be fine. The story's fun and good and everything. And so, no, you know what it made me feel like? It made me feel happy for the comic industry, because I've been working in it for 20 years. So for me, it was like, oh, I know that those numbers are so big that it has to be numbers of people that aren't reading comics or haven't read comics for a while, or this is going to be their first comic. And so it made me actually super happy for the industry, because I love comics. And so it's anything that helps get people in stores or brings attention to books is good. And it'll be a good book.
Alright, Mr. Robot has a big storyline with a restaurant called Red Wheelbarrow. Was one work inspired by the other, or is it just a coincidence?
Yeah, no, it's not a coincidence, but I'll tell you what it is, and then we gotta get back to Pee Wee Herman too. Real quick, Pee Wee Herman, that was the best. My friend Dinesh, who's was at Valiant and is running Bad Idea now and everything, we work together. He sent that because he knows I love Pee Wee Herman, and anyway, that freaked me out. I was texting it to everybody, my mom. But anyway, Red Wheelbarrow, yeah, it's not a coincidence, but it's based on, I don't know what the restaurant was based on, but I know that I was based it on William Carlos Williams wrote a poem called Red Wheelbarrow. It's a short one, but it's about a red wheelbarrow and just sitting in the rain, I think. I can't remember it. I have a terrible memory, so I can't, I don't memorize anything. But if you look up if you just search for Red Wheelbarrow and William Carlos Williams, or poem, it was based on his poem.
Wait for Cosmic Detective. You have a goal date for them to ship. It's looking great so far.
Goal date, yeah. What did David say? Like, he should be done with art by March, April?
Yeah, no, I think you said it.
Yeah, I think the art's gonna be done by like March, April, and then he's got to color and do the lettering and everything. So David's doing every part of it, which is what I love about working with him, is we don't have to hire a letterer or a colorist or anybody, or even production. He does it all, and so which is good. It also means that it's gonna take him a little longer because he's got to do it all. But yeah, so if he's done by, like, whenever he finishes final art and it gets to me, I'll prep it for the printer, and then printing will probably take, like, depending on what the schedule is, it'll depend, but it'll probably be a couple months after that for printing and shipping. But
Taylor X Comics said, "Hey Matt, do you think you'll ever release a collection of your early mini comics? It'd be an awesome thing to see."
No, they're bad. The stories are good. Maybe I would release scripts or descriptions of what they are, but they, yeah, the art's really rough, and it's kind of embarrassing, so I probably never would.
Someone asked, "Will there ever be more super spy stories, or is that done?"
Super Spy, I'd never say it's done. But I don't know. I was just talking yesterday to Brian about doing like another web kind of comic though, which is how I did Super Spy, where I did it in panels, and then you click through the panels. So I thought about doing something like that, like on Instagram or something that's like shorter stories that you sort of flip through, and then they weave into a bigger narrative. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would go back to Super Spy or World War II. Although I just fell down a rabbit hole of like World War II YouTube videos of history of all these crazy things that happened, and it got me excited about it again. But I don't think I'll have time.
This is not really a question, but someone said that if you're worried about oddball sizes, there are sites that offer print-on-demand services. They don't do shirt until the customer orders it.
Oh yeah, is that for like the mini comics?
For the
maybe
the t-shirts.
Oh, for the t-shirts. Yeah. That's what I think. We'll just do that because that'll be. Oh, for t-shirt sizes. Yeah, we'll just do something like that because. I want a t-shirt too.
Holly's doing the cover for Baggy's Reset come around.
Oh, Peter Baggy. Yeah, that came about. Boy, I think I talked to him in Seattle, the Seattle Comic-Con, whatever year that was, that book was coming out or was about to come out. No, I saw him at the table and I was like, oh, it's Peter Baggy. And when I was in college, like Hate and 8-Ball were like my two favorite comics. And so I just went up and told him that. And we got to talking a little bit. And he had a new book, and it was through Dark Horse, and I work with Dark Horse. So again, a lot of times you can credit editors with setting up a lot of these creative teams or introducing people. Because I really just went up and wanted to tell him that I was a fan of his stuff. And then I've been trying to do that more lately. I'm not, I'm just not outgoing. It's hard for me to talk to people I don't know. But the last few years I've made a concerted effort to, at least if I see somebody that I know or the work I like, I'll go up and say something to them, even if it stresses me out. But I think it was because there was a year, I'm trying to remember what year it was. Darwin Cook was at Heroes one year, and I missed him, it was mostly because I was like, he's not going to care about me or want to see me or whatever, and then I didn't say anything to him, and then that was the year he died, and then after that I was like, I'm never going to let that happen again. So now I make sure I go out of my way to, if I know somebody's at the convention, I go find them and say something to them. Because you end up thinking like, I've talked to Bernie Wrightson and Bill Sienkiewicz and guys like that who I'm like, dude, they don't care. They don't need me to tell them how good they are. They know they're good. But it does mean something, and I know that every artist, doesn't matter how big you are, every artist probably needs to hear that somebody likes their stuff. Good. I can focus on my coffee right now. Favorite artist edition I own. I'm gonna go look real quick. Hold on. I'll go get it. Oh, I know which one. I had to look to make sure. I messed up the camera angle. Whoa, sorry about that. This one, Daredevil Born Again, it's so good. David Mazzucchelli's stuff. His drawings are just so good. And what I liked about this was, and then a lot of them have it, but there's like overlays, like vellum overlays. I like these clear. I like seeing the production part of it. And I just think his art is so good. And then I love the story. So that's my favorite. That's a good question.
Are you going to be the artist for any of your family?
I ask Warren, who's my editor there, I ask him all the time. And he says that he needs me writing. If I have extra time, he says he needs me writing. So, and part of it is I mean, that's nice. I'm glad he likes my writing and he doesn't care for my art. That hurts my feelings. But not really. No, what it means is that he has so many good artists right now working that he wants to keep them working. And like if I'm writing and drawing it, then in a way I'm taking work, or I'm taking a job away from one of the artists we work with, who we love, and I don't. To me, I feel like it's kind of greedy to do it. It's like I don't want to do that, and I like working with artists. So if I want to write and draw, I'll write and draw my own thing, and just do it with Dark Horse. I'm working on a couple things this year that I'll be doing. But yeah, if I was drawing it, honestly, I would rather see Louis LaRosa drawing my story than me drawing it, because he's so good. But yeah, good question. But yeah, Louis LaRosa, he's so good. And then Doug Braithwaite's drawing ENIAC, and that's amazing. I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot of stuff coming through Bad Idea that hasn't been announced yet. I have. Oh my gosh, I forgot that existed. We put that on my list to do. I gotta find that book. No, I know somebody tweeted about it, and then I was like, oh, I gotta get that, and then I totally forgot about it. So yeah, that's on my list to get. Hopefully, it's not hard to find.
What has been the most challenging project you've worked on, also with bringing this award?
Yeah, the most challenging project I worked on is one that hasn't come out yet, that I just finished writing. And my idea, I had this idea last year, is to work with, find a European artist to work with. There's a lot of French artists that I like, and then I talked to my editor. I'm not going to mention any names of anything because it's not announced yet, but I was talking to that editor and I was like, hey, are there any artists that want to write, need a writer or want to collaborate with me or anything? And my editor was like, yeah, there's a few that would, and so I was like, well, so I talked to one of the artists, and then we decided to collaborate, and he's really good, and I pitched the story to him. It's sort of it's in a crime genre, sort of a weird crime genre idea, and they approved it, and then the idea was to publish it as 2 volumes, so 2 40-page volumes, like European album-sized volumes, which I was really excited about. And then the art's going to be really good. It's fully painted and everything. And so I wrote, he needed the script, so I wrote the first 40-page album, no problem, based on my outline, turned it in, art started coming in, and then right around Christmas, they're like, well, he's almost done, we're going to need the volume 2 so you can get started on it. And so I was like, okay, I had my outline, I sat down, and then I couldn't believe how long it took to write this 40 pages, and it just, I kept writing it, and I was like, get halfway done, I was like, I don't think this works, I don't know if I like it. And then, and so I rewrote it, and I didn't like that either, and then I rewrote it, and I didn't like that either, and I just couldn't think of what to do or how to fix it. I was telling Brian Hurt, who I shared a studio with, I was telling him this, I was like, yeah, I can't, I was like, I don't know what's going on, like, I'm writing it, I don't like it, and I'm rewriting it, and he's like, that's writer's block. I was like, what? And I didn't understand, and it's the first time in my life I've ever had writer's block, and I didn't understand what was happening. I thought something was wrong with me, and I think it really was, like, I had an idea, and I think I just ended up not liking the initial idea, but not being able to figure out how to fix it. And part of the problem was, having written the first 40 pages, it sort of locked me in, so I was like, this is the first half, has to be this. Then how do you do the second half? Which normally would be, that's like a fun challenge. It's like, oh, let's figure it out, or whatever. And then, but I don't know. I don't know what happened this time. But I did. I finally, it was probably, I don't know how many drafts I wrote. Probably 6 or 7 drafts before I even showed it to the editor. And finally figured it out, and I was happy with it. But it took a long time. I didn't like it. But I've written things since then, so it's not, hopefully that never happens again. The most rewarding. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Oh, I think 3 Story is probably the most rewarding, and that it's the book that Charlene, my wife, likes the most. And it was the book that I wrote with her in mind. Like, I wanted to write a book that she would enjoy, because I've been going to a bunch of conventions, and then over 10 years worth of conventions, and then there's nothing for her that she's really interested in reading, and then I'd see people dragging their girlfriends or wives along to the convention, and they're not seeing anything that's they want to read. And so I was trying to write a book that would appeal to everybody, that anybody could come up and enjoy the book. And so that was the book where I guess I feel like it was the most successful, because it wasn't just, I wasn't trying to make the story work. It was just a book that I wanted the book to serve a purpose, or to reach an audience, a different audience. I felt like it kind of did.
And you didn't ask me to expect a cameo in the next movie.
I can't. I recorded some little promotional video stuff for Bad Idea that they asked me to do, for some emails, and it was 2 lines that I had to say, and then and I couldn't remember the 2 lines. I had to print it out and then tape it under my phone and then read the lines, because I don't know what it is. So the answer is no. I'm not, I'm not sure why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I haven't been to a convention in a year, and so I kind of miss interacting with people, but yeah, I don't have any desire to do that. I wouldn't mind visiting the set and seeing the making of stuff. I love seeing the process, but I don't want to be in a movie.
Someone else is the hero trade going to come out in another printed design.
The Hero Trade. It's supposed to be, issue 3 of ENIAC is where it's going to appear. And and I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much is secret with the stuff they're doing. I've done so much that's coming out that's super exciting. That I'll just err on the side of safety and not talk about it. But yeah, issue 3 of ENIAC.
I would suggested started from beginning to watercolors. I've always looked for looks and wanted to give it a shot, but I'm not too sure where to get started.
Yeah, I would just buy a starter set of those little square cakes. I have them over there, but yeah, if you watch one of the other videos, you can see what just buy a set of those. Like they make smaller ones too; they're cheaper. But you can get a decent one for like $25 probably. That has decent paint. And then make sure you get good paper. Don't get the cheapest paper. Get like a thicker paper, and just mess around with it. Like, do like there's some of the YouTube videos I have where it's just like a thin. Maybe we haven't posted those yet. I did ones where it's just like thin ink lines, and then just paint around those and just mess around with the paint. But the best way to do it is just to screw around with it and see what it does. Yeah, it's never too late, and I think people think watercolor is hard, but I don't. I think it's easy because it looks cool on its own without having to do too much to it. But then I want to post process videos of my daughter painting because she's so much better than me now. It's humbling to see the 17-year-old. Surpass where I'm at now, and then I dug up some of my old stuff when I was 17 to show her. I was like, well, look, here's where I was at, and it's really bad.
How do we make a not print spawn variant color happen since there's a bunch of new spawn happen?
Spawn, I would do a Spawn variant. I don't know how. Somebody, I don't know who's, is McFarlane, is he writing it? Is he involved in it? I don't know. No, I would be up for that. That'd be fun. I bought all of the Image #1s back when they came out. I remember being we were at Chicago Comic-Con and they had a big tent outside with all the Image guys in it. It was like a line around the block to get the books signed and everything. I didn't go in it. But yeah, I was a fan of Spawn back in the day, and McFarlane. Boy, that's a tough one. It has to be. Agent Cooper is my favorite. I know that's a boring answer, but he's just the best. Like, he really is the best. I just rewatched all of them this last year, and then rewatched season 3, and I don't know. Nobody beats him, but.
Also, when you're a fan of the show Patriot, have you watched the follow-up show to that, Perpetual Grace LTD?
What? I never even heard of that. Is it we put that on our list? How is it a follow-up? Is it like a sequel set in the same world? Or this is what I need to know? Because the Patriot is like, other than that one and Leftovers are the 2 TV shows I would say everybody needs to watch. It's the best stuff that's come out.
What's it about?
Which one? Leftovers?
Patriot.
Oh, Patriot. It's about a spy who wants to be a folk singer, and he doesn't want to be a spy. He's a folk singer. He wants to do these folks, so he writes folk songs and performs them, And then in his folk songs, he's talking about being a spy, but it's sort of like uh, he's talking about it euphemistically. So, but his handler watches him at open mic night, and he's like, "You can't sing about that stuff. That's classified information." And anyway, so he's kind of miserable being a spy. Like to me, it's sort of it's like it shares some DNA of what I was trying to do in Super Spy, where you have these people that don't want to be spies, but they're caught um, in a life situation that makes it so they have to do these things, and that's definitely what he is. But the music's really good. It's really well directed. The acting's great. It's funny and it's sad all at the same time. I can't say enough good about it.
Coleman said that it is the same showrunner and a lot of the same cast, a lot of references to Preacher as well.
What is it on? Is it on Amazon? I never thought I can't believe I never heard of it.
The network is epic.
No, we definitely will watch it then.
Yeah, it's like you can view it through Amazon, but you have like
Yeah, okay.
Coleman says it's on Stars, but you can sub from Amazon.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it.
Like I said, did we tell him that show also got canceled?
Did it get finished though? Was it a full season at least?
Barry asks, have you seen Barry on HBO?
Barry is awesome. Yeah, we watched that and love it. Yeah, Barry's really. I love that's. It's a similar tone. It's like funny but kind of sad and serious too. It's what we love.
I said one season. I'm guessing from the Perpetual Grace one. And Kevin said, like Patriot, I would say it's a satisfying thing.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's a bummer. What's sad about that is like, as huge fans of Patriot and that show, the marketing, like we didn't hear about it. How did we not hear about it? It's too bad. But
No more questions right now.
all right, that's good. I can focus on my drawing. Yeah, thanks.
The Native Seven said, can you talk about the overlap between Bang and Fear Case?
Yeah, the overlap between Bang and Fear Case is the overlap that is kind of in all of my books. And it's sort of started, I was putting this villain in where did it start? It kind of started in Revolver, the book I did for Vertigo. And the villain in that is kind of my archetypal villain. He's like the guy with the goatee. His name is Verve. I think his name was Verve, or his PK Verve in Revolver. And then I put him in Mind Management as sort of like a background character, semi-villain. And then the idea is he can hop realities. And so he's kind of showed up in everything. He shows up as a writer, he shows up as a villain in some things, and in Fear Case he shows up as a writer, and then in Bang he shows up as kind of a character, and sometimes it's just his writing that shows up, not him, and then sometimes he shows up, but he's always sort of a force for, if he's not a force for evil, he's definitely not good and not to be trusted. And so he's just kind of that thing that has creeped into all my books, and I think It's the thing that links them together. So I don't think the fear case characters, the investigators in that aren't going to meet characters from mind management, but they could meet characters from Bang.
Brad said there's going to be a limited second season of Perpetual Thirst on Ethics to wrap it up.
Okay.
Someone joked about how you draw his comic.
Yes, I will.
Ari said, is that a self-insert nod to Von Doom and Kilgore kind of deal? That's right.
Oh, Kilgore Trout from yeah.
Is that Vonnegut?
Yeah, no, it's Vonnegut, and it's like it's a little bit of an nod to that, and then also just a lot of Philip K. Dick, because if you've read any Philip K. Dick, you realize that he is basically the main character in almost every book, you know, and then and even in Man in High Castle, there's a twist in that book that is kind of great. So it's an homage to that, and then Vonnegut, and I like that idea of writer as character, writer as fictional person. But I sort of just slid into it because this guy, I felt like I was always needing, every story was always needing this sort of person. I felt like it needed that kind of character. And then, and so I was like, well, why does it need a character like this, or does it need this guy? Like, and I feel like it's sort of this fictional villain that's sort of haunting all of my books. It's sort of based on like a real life villain, but I don't know. I don't have a real villain in my life or a nemesis. I try not to. I feel like if you have a nemesis in real life, you're not doing it right.
What is your typical workday schedule?
Typical workday. It depends. Like this year, it's changed. My workday has been dictated by my daughter's schedule. So all the way up through sophomore year of high school, before she could drive, I would wake up, get breakfast for her, have breakfast with her, and then take her to school, and then my day would start. So like around 8 o'clock. Then when she got her license and wanted to drive on her own to school, I didn't have to do that anymore. So I was still kind of waking up at that time, and I would say goodbye, and then work from like 8 to 5, like a normal work day. But then this last 2 years, I've sort of slid back into what I would normally do, which is like wake up at 10, work till 7, and then so wake up when I wake up, and then work till my work's done, or I get tired. So yeah, it's still, I try to work like 8 or 9 hours a day, and then take off on the weekends. I didn't used to take weekends off, but I consciously started taking weekends off this like a year ago, just because I was starting to get burned out, and it was just too much. I was just working too much. So I started taking weekends off, and then just playing video games and reading books and doing a lot of the stuff that I used to do, but I just have been working so much that I haven't done it. But yeah, but it's still flexible. Like last week, I was up till 2 in the morning recording some video stuff I had to do. And so every once in a while there'll be a long day like that, but it just depends. But I will say it's never hard. There's always something fun to do. I know I woke up this morning, I forgot to set my alarm for today for the live stream, and I woke up at 9:50, and I was like, usually I'll sleep for a little bit longer, but I woke up and I was like, ugh, live stream, I gotta get up. So I got up a little quicker today. Thanks for watching. Bill Sienkiewicz. So, I would love to collaborate. He's another one where if he asked me to write something for him, I would do it, but I don't feel it's my place to ever. I feel like it's presumptuous for me to be like, hey, let me write something for you. But he's done some covers for me. He did a cover for Ether, and so I'm happy with that. Any way we can collaborate. Yeah, he's the guy he was one of those where I was like, I just gotta go up at this convention here in Kansas City, and I was like, I just gotta go up and tell him how much I love his work and stuff. And told him he's the nicest guy, super nice, and then the danger of doing that though is like then I want original art, so I've spent a lot of money on original art the last few years just because I gotta get this art while I can.
Are you going through a big Bing sketch cover?
Do I have any Bing sketch covers? I don't know if I have any. I'm trying to think if I might have a couple blanks. I don't really remember what I've got. I might have a handful. I'll have to look. I know that I got my issue ones CGC'd because I'm hoping that there's an announcement sometime in the next year. So I got a couple of mine graded just for, I don't know why, but I try to get all my issue number ones graded and so I put them on the shelf because they just kind of look cool. But I don't recommend doing it unless you have an extra copy to read. I'm against CGCing, but it's kind of fun to do.
If you could write one chapter, anything, what would you go for?
Anything. So anything like I think I would do say I want to do Legion of Superheroes. Well, I'm assuming we're talking about work for hire or like something I don't know. And I would want to do Legion of Superheroes, but I couldn't. One issue isn't enough. I need like 24 issues to do my idea. So one shot, I'd probably do another Black Widow story, something with spies and like gadgets. Like I had a story idea one time. One of my Black Widow ideas, it was like for a series, was to do, I pitched this and I didn't want to do it, but where all the major things that happen in Marvel, like the Hulk being created and all the Secret Origin stuff, all of that was manipulated by the Black Widow, and then to make that stuff happen. And so she's behind the scenes. So it would be a retelling of the whole origins of the Marvel universe, but from Black Widow's point of view, and like all the stuff she did behind the scenes to make it happen. But that sounds like more than a one shot.
Julie asked, is my management still being optioned any updates?
Yes, it was at a place, and I wrote a pilot, and then the pandemic happened, and it killed it there. So I have a pilot script up that is exactly what I wanted, and then it got optioned again, and it's not announced, so I can't say where, who, or what, or why, but it's actively being worked on, is all I'll say.
Tyler asked, what is your favorite piece of original art that you've done?
My favorite piece? Oh, I was like, oh, that's hard. I was like, no, it's not hard. I have a Jack Kirby piece at home that's like big, like 20 by 24 maybe, and it's pencil drawing of Darkseid's pleasure yacht or death yacht or something, and it's a drawing he did for the toys, the Superpower toy line, and it's Darkseid, and he's on this crazy space yacht, and then it's Kirby at labeled everything too. He's like all the different parts of the yacht and what they are, and it's all in his handwriting, and it's all pencil. And it's my favorite piece, and it's one that me and my wife, we had been searching for. We wanted to get a Kirby piece, and then we looked all over and trying to find the right one. And eventually I realized, like, most of his stuff, like comic pages, are inked, and I didn't want an inked page because you didn't ink most of his stuff. So I wanted something that was just pure Kirby and only his hand. And then we found this great pencil drawing. That's just him, and you can see him where like he erased to clean up around the art and everything, and it's just super cool. And I posted a picture of it a long time ago. I should post one again. Pretty quick. Well, I did not get enough books done. This is going to take like 100 live streams. Maybe we won't do them all live stream. Let's see. I have to flip through the book because I'm not repeating drawings, but I got to remember the other characters. I'll just talk. I started doing signings like this after my first trip to France, when Two Sisters came out. It was published over there, and then it was my first book tour in Europe. And then I went to my first signing, and then I was just signing books like I'd always had. I had a little micron, something like this, and then I would just do like a little, maybe a head sketch, and then sign it. And then I'm sitting next to like these amazing European artists signing their books, and they have all this stuff set up, kind of like I've got. And they're doing these full drawings, like pencil and ink and paint, and I'm doing this tiny little micron drawing and signing my name, and it's like, this is embarrassing. So then I picked up my game. I went out to the art supply store after that first signing, and then got a bunch of stuff, and then started practicing doing better drawings and more elaborate stuff, just so, because I think that's kind of what they expected, and that's what they expect over there is when they go to a signing, they'll stay in line for hours to get a drawing, but then it's great because you got like an original piece of art in your book. But it's what publishers expect, and then the readers expect it too, because it's just what they do.
Another question from Ella. What story idea are you most proud of?
What story idea? Should I say The Animal Kid in Mind Management? No, but I'll say, what will I say? I'm trying to think. I think Mind Management as the overall idea is probably the thing I'm most proud of. And specifically within Mind Management, I don't know. I need help. What I think about it the most. I think that, I think everything about Mind Management, like the ads on the back and then the text on the side and all the extra little stuff, it's not the story idea. It's like, I'm proud of like how the story was told. Because I think the story ideas are, ultimately the ideas are all the same. It's about somebody who feels bad about a thing and tries to make it better. So, but yeah, I think how mind management was told is the thing I'm most proud of. Tough question.
John asked, do you think you'll ever clean your savage hair again?
I tried to do it this morning. I tried to put it down, and then it wouldn't go down right. And so then I just like, I'll just put it all the way up. So, but and then what I hate is that I don't want the beard and the hair length to match, and now they're starting to match, and then it looks like this character, that thing from Zardoz. Remember Brian texted me this picture from Zardoz that's this character, like a statue, where the hair on the top and the beard is the same. And then I was like, I'll never let that happen again, except now it's happening again. It was either that or wear a hat, and I was like, I didn't want to wear a hat. Not today. But thanks for noticing.
You asked in your Red Riding Hood video, at the beginning of it, there were a bunch of thin white trees on a black background. How did you design it?
The thin white trees on a black background, I did that digitally. So that I'm going to record. Sometimes I draw pencil paper, ink on paper, and sometimes I draw on the computer, or sometimes I'll ink some stuff on the computer. I'll ink partial drawings on the computer and then print it out. And so that was one where this is what I like drawing on the computer for, and I use Clip Studio, Clip Studio something. It's a program that all the creators use now. But what I like is that you can just fill black and then you can do white over the top, because for my entire career I tried to find a good white pen or white ink that would go over black, and it's just impossible to find. You have to basically use gouache out of a bottle with a brush, and then it's impossible to get those thin lines. So doing effects like that on the computer are just easier to do, and they look better. So yeah.
Have you thought of any other special book signing activities like the thing you do for Red Hand?
Yeah, there's a book I did, The Tooth, that Colin Bunn wrote, and I did the art on. And there's a page in there that, if you've ever got that signed, it's like a clip out coupon, or it's like the drawing test they used to do, where you draw a turtle or draw a pirate, and then you draw it and then you mail it in to see if you can join this art school, or I don't know exactly what the scam was, but I put one in there like that, and so where I would draw then the person's profile and then clip that out and then glue that to the front of the book as like a book plate. But it was cool because the thing you clipped out then, the panel behind that worked with the page in front of it too, like it continued the story, or it was a profile of a woman. It's been a while since I've seen it. So I did that. That was sort of my test run on doing the red-handed book, and the thing I did with that. I figured out a way to sort of develop it better as far as story goes. But yeah, I'm open to ideas. If you have any ideas, I've had ideas for things with water and Department H signings. And oh yeah, here's the book. Here's the tooth. Sorry about that. This is the tooth. This is the book. It's out of print. It's currently out of print, but we're working on a new printing. But you can see this. I would basically draw whatever I wanted to in this empty square, and then clip it out, and then the page behind it was the profile of the woman that would show up. And so I would always, for those signings, I would have to have scissors, and I would clip it out, and then I had a glue stick, and I would glue it into the book. It was kind of fun. Yeah, a lot of that just comes from, after a while you sign for so long, it just gets kind of boring to do the same thing over and over again. And then, so it's fun to have like an activity to do to sort of shake things up.
Taylor College asks, what's your favorite spy franchise or movie or book?
Man, all right. I rewatched every single James Bond movie this year, so it's probably my favorite because I grew up with it. And I rewatched all the Bourne movies. Those are good. Brian keeps trying to convince me that Mission Impossible movies are better than James Bond. I don't agree. I agree that they may be better movies, but I don't like them better because James Bond's not in it. I'm trying to think of, there's probably something else I'm not remembering. Yeah. Oh, and spy books. I started rereading the Ian Fleming Bond books this summer, and I was kind of bummed out. They're not as good as I remembered. I read them when I was in high school. So I don't know if I'm going to keep reading them because I just like to have the memory of how much I liked them back then. But spy books, I really like. God, I was thinking about this guy the other day. He did all of his books are like the beginning of World War II. They're like black and white covers. I can't remember his name. I'll have to look it up. We'll put it in the notes for this video. Is it Durst? Something? It starts with a D. Yeah. And they're all like, it's all like European stuff. It's Paris, like right before World War II. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've read them, but I really like those. They're real dry. Not dry, but they're more realistic. I like John Le Carré. His stuff's good. And then, what else did I read? I read something else recently. Oh, Graham Greene. I like some of his stuff. Like, one of my favorites is Our Man in Havana. That's a really good one. It's kind of funny and sad at the same time. Sort of. That's the one I recommend most. But then his other ones are good too. I'm trying to think of the titles. Yeah, I have to have them. That's why I keep my books on the bookshelf so I can remember the titles. There's a couple other ones. There's one that did a movie of one of Graham Greene's. But I finally read Third Man that he'd written. My mom got me a book of Graham Greene's short stories, and the short stories are really good. The Third Man one I finally read, it's like kind of a novella.
Someone said, have you tried the Uni Ball Sigma white pen for white liner? Pretty smooth.
I'll show you. I threw one away yesterday. I had like a thin white pen, and it does work, but it doesn't last very long. And if you don't use it enough, it dries out. So I threw it away literally yesterday. It's probably in the trash. And then there's these thick ones. I have these thick ones that you can sort of get thicker lines, and these work pretty good. But yeah, it's nothing is like reliable, and then it really is hard to get like a thin to thick without using like a brush and gouache.
When you're writing for another artist, on average, how long would it take for you to write the script? Do you do multiple drafts?
Boy, it really depends. Like everyone is different. I think like I feel like editors have told me that I'm fast, but also like sitting down and typing the page descriptions and the dialogue doesn't take much time at all. Like I could write a 22-page script in a day, but that doesn't count like the thinking time and like the outlining time and sort of the first draft. I'm talking I can do a first draft of that 22 pages in a day, but it's really the outline. Like I like for example, like with Berserker with Keanu, like we're working on the outlines. We've been working a year and a half on 8 issues worth of outlines. So that one's just it just depends, you know. And sometimes it comes fast and it's easy, and sometimes it just takes a while. and then when you're collaborating, like with Berserker, we're collaborating, so we got to find time to get together and talk about it, and so those outlines take a long time. But I'm working on the script for issue 5 now, but issue 5 is already figured out. Like we beat by beat have every part of the story of issue 5 done. So I'm really just putting it into panel descriptions at this point, and it's not taking long at all. But yeah, everyone. The short answer is everyone's different. But when the outline's done, you can write it 22 pages in a day. But it doesn't count all the other stuff around it, the planning and everything. Yeah. Good. I'm not used to talking so much.
How long after vaccination or no but would you feel comfortable returning to the
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, I guess I'll know when I know. Like, when everybody, enough people have had it, or there's herd immunity or whatever. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'll know when I know. I've gotten so comfortable just like living in this little bubble and getting so much work done. Like the downside of no conventions is that it's like I miss people and talking and seeing friends and interacting. But the upside is that like the amount of work days that travel takes away is a lot. And so not traveling, not going anywhere, and just staying home and drawing and writing all the time has allowed me to get like a ton of stuff done. So I'm excited to go back, but I'll go back when it seems right. I'm most excited about Gen Con. I want to go to that board game convention and play games again. That's my hobby.
So what do you hope the next 5 years look like for you?
Boy, I don't know, if everything just stayed how it was, it'd be great, minus pandemic or whatever. But I don't know. I would like to see one of the things get made, like some kind of TV or movie, some other media, just something happen, just for the fun of that. But other than that, I don't know. What's funny is I remember Charlene always reminds me. She's like, yeah, I remember in college you said your life goal is to like just get one book published. And now I'm like, I was like, maybe I should have set my goals higher. I don't have any goals other than just keep doing what I'm doing. Like I really love making comics and writing, and I've written a couple screenplays this year, so I enjoy that. It's like a different sort of creative muscle to use. So I wouldn't mind writing some more screenplays because I think it's fun. And it doesn't take away from the comics. If anything, I feel like it's made me a better comic book writer. Like the process of that. Because it's so more, when you're writing screenplays, there's so much more scrutiny on it, you know, the story and the timing, and I feel like with comics, the great thing about comics can also be detriment is like you can just be fast and loose with story and plot and different things, and now in hindsight I think maybe I had writer's block because I kept questioning everything I was doing, so maybe that's not good. All right. All right, good. I gotta get more. I still have another 100 books to do. I appreciate all the orders. It's kind of fun. Train going by. Let's see.
Read comics next.
Oh yeah, I've been told that I have 3 comic books coming out next Wednesday. But yeah, Fear Case number 2, Crimson Flower number 2. No, not Crimson Flower. ENIAC number 1, and Berserker number 1. And yeah, if you want to talk about schedules, so Fear Case number, is that what I said? Fear Case number 2.
Yeah.
Fear Case number 2 I wrote over the summer, and then ENIAC number 1 I wrote in the spring.
This spring?
Maybe this spring. It could have been sooner than the spring. I'll have to look. No, I think ENIAC number 1 I wrote it like over a year and a half ago. And then Berserker number 1 we'd finished. Gosh, what are we in? We probably finished that a year ago. So yeah, the lead time on the stuff. So when they all come out at once, it's not like although I probably was writing on all those at the same time. There's no like real pressure because the lead time is so great that it's not like I have to turn it around in a day or anything. It gets done when it gets done. I know ENIAC. We worked on ENIAC a long time because it was a difficult story because when I pitched the idea, I really liked the idea, but then when I started sitting down to write it, it's not a very visual story on its surface. It's about AI and this computer, and it's sort of how it's manipulating humanity. But how do you visualize that? You know, it has to be interesting to look at. You know, there's got to be something fun to draw. So it was sort of fun to sort of figure that out. Figure out how we make it a visual story. Because there's a lot of big ideas in it.
Someone said that they liked how you showed me love for coffee and beer case.
Oh yeah, what's funny is the first issue of that, it was so wordy. There's so much dialogue that I kept going through it and cutting. I cut so much dialogue out, and then I almost cut out the opening spread. That almost cut that out. I was like, it's too much. It's too much to read. But then I was like, no, I believe in it. I believe in what's being said, and I love coffee. So I left it in there, and I was like, well, I hope it's not too much. And then the rest, issue 2 through 4, it's not as wordy. There's not as much. It starts to pick up more. But I didn't want to lose people right away on that first page, so I was a little bit worried about it. But I'm glad people are enjoying it.
Ella asked, what are some of your favorite musical artists and songs?
It just depends. I have a playlist on Spotify. It's called the Epic Writing Playlist, and it's like 50 songs, and I'll add a few songs every once in a while. Ella knows this already, but and so it just keeps growing, and sometimes I'll delete songs because it's the only music I listen to when I'm writing, and there's something about it, like the same songs in the same order, and every time if I'm having trouble focusing, I'll just play it, and then automatically I'm just like, I don't even hear it anymore. I'm just getting into my writing mode and write. It's like being hypnotized. And so what's in that playlist is so random, because what I'll do is Spotify has the Discover Weekly, and it suggests everything, and everything it suggests is horrible, but every week there'll be like one song that's pretty good, and so I'll add one song, and then sometimes I'll delete it if I'm like, this isn't as good as I thought. So what's in there? There's tons of soundtracks. The soundtracks, I think it's, gosh, I won't be able to remember the name, of course, but all the music from Leftovers, the TV show, it's a lot of piano stuff. That's all in there. There's who is it that does? I can't remember. I'm just gonna look it up. This is super easy. I don't need to remember. Putting me on the spot. Let's look at my epic playlist. And if you guys want, I could publish this. The Pixies. The Pixies is on there. Let's see. Bunch of stuff from Leftovers. Kaleo. It's got some good ones. Kishi Bashi. I like some of his songs. Arcade Fire. Ron Gallo. It's got some good ones. Who else? Max Richter. That's the guy who did most of the score for Leftovers. Black Angels. I like them a lot. Peter Gabriel. Not enough. There's hardly any Peter Gabriel on Spotify. It's hard to find. But it's a lot of like single songs that I just like. It's like a million. Glass Animals. I like some Glass Animals. Ella got me onto that. Chet Faker. I like some of his. All Them Witches. I've been listening to a lot of them lately.
He asked if you like Sigur Rós.
Is it on the thing? How do you spell it?
SIGUR_RA.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I don't know. Yeah, I'm always looking for recommendations. Music is so tricky too, because it's like the stuff on my writing playlist isn't necessarily my favorite music. It's the music I like writing to, But then there's also like driving music, and then reading music. So when I first get to the studio in the morning, I usually just tell Alexa I play bebop, which is like my favorite era of. It's like 60s jazz, so it's like all that Jack Kerouac jazz stuff, and it's like what's his name? Take 5 and all that. That old jazz.
Okay, Ari asked, how much editorial control is there when you write for a larger publisher like DH versus startup, or just in general? I'm guessing you don't get notes, or if you just ignore.
Yeah, no, if you're writing for Marvel and DC, the notes will happen. It's going to be, and in my experience, most of the notes weren't, 99% of the notes weren't story-specific notes like, hey, what about this or that? Most of them were, hey, this character's over here doing that, or this character's going to be in a movie, so we want this. Those are the kind of notes. And so those, I always, going in, like if you're taking a job at Marvel and DC, you kind of know going in, that's how it works, and so you have to be willing to put up with some of that. And so the amount of work I've done for them, that's as much as I'm willing to put up with. But yeah, so what's great is with Bad Idea and with Keanu on Berserker and Boom, and then with everything with Dark Horse, I have to ask for notes sometimes. It's like, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And to me it's great, because it's more of like, I have like with Daniel Chabon at Dark Horse, it's like he just lets me do what I want to do, and then sometimes I'll be like, what about this, or I'm waffling on one idea or another, or like a cover or something like that, and then he can act as a sounding board, and that's, to me, that's what I want, is I want somebody that is there when I need them, but doesn't feel like they need to like put their stamp on it, you know. And I'm super fortunate to be at a place in my career where that is possible. But I feel like I have to be more careful now than ever, because no one's going to tell me what to do, which is good. But it's also no one's going to, you know what I mean. I got to make sure that people are, or that I'm putting quality control on myself and making sure it's as good as it can be. Because I don't want people around me to be like afraid to say something, or like, hey, this isn't good, or this isn't, you know, that's not good. It's like I just want honest feedback, and that's why Charlene is great. We've been together so long. She has no compunction about being like, I don't know about that, or this or that, or, you know, there's no ego involved. It's just like, let's make it as good as it can be, or work harder, redraw that head because it's too big for the body. I need to be told.
Okay, Taylor Comics says, would you do a video showing off some of your early mini comics, some of that process stuff is showing the suggestions you would make for this video?
Yeah, I would do that. Maybe for the next one I'll drag out some, and then I'll just flip through them quickly, so you can't be like freeze framing or watching it in slow mo or anything. It's not worth it. But yeah, I'll show them and talk about like the ideas behind them. That's a good idea. It's like I remember learning about Chris Ware. His first comic book was this black and white book, and I remember reading an interview with him where he's like, he wouldn't sign it. He would actually buy the books back from people that brought it up to get it signed. He would buy them back and destroy the books. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I found a copy at a convention, and then and it wasn't bad. You know, what I like about it is it shows where he was at that time. It's like an artifact, you know, and like he's not, he's embarrassed by it, but it's just where you are at the time. You get better. Like if you're not getting better, then you're not doing it right. You know, you should be getting better. You should be kind of ashamed of your older work in some way, or not think it's good enough. But he didn't. He signed it for me, and he grumbled about it. He was nice. He was nice about it. But yeah, I think if you look back at your old work and you're like, that's amazing, that's not good. It should always be hard to look at your older stuff, you know, because you're growing, getting better.
Andrea, I have enjoyed your story, Rebel Heart stories. Have you had any other ideas for Star Wars universe? And a related question, have you read any of the Star Wars novels?
I haven't read any of the novels. I'm a weird Star Wars fan. I'm like a purist, and then this is just disregard me when it comes to Star Wars. But the only things that I regard as canon are the things that happen in the movies. And now that the TV shows are coming out, anything that's live action I count as canon. Everything else I don't. Like even the animated stuff, Brian will be telling me about things and explaining some of the Mandalorian things, and I'm like, I don't count that. I didn't see it happen in real life. So that's where I am as like a fan, and I think part of it is like there's so much of it now I don't have time to watch all the animated stuff or follow it, and the same with comics and the books. I don't have the time to do it. But I love the movies, and then and The Mandalorian is amazing, and what was the other part of it? Oh, writing more. No, when they actually asked me if I wanted to write a 4-issue Star Wars story, and then I turned it down because I'm such a fan of Star Wars. Like I grew up, it's my first memory is seeing Star Wars in the theater in '76, and so I've been a fan of it my whole life in such a way that like doing comics I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to have an experience where like editorial was stepping in, or they made it something that wasn't fun to write. So I turned it down. I was like, I don't know what I would add to it. There's some things I just want to be a fan of. Star Wars is one of those things. Like the stuff I loved when I was a kid, most of that, I just want to remain a fan of it. I don't want to insert myself into it. And so I turned that job down, and then the next day I was thinking, I was just in the shower, I was like, well, what would I do though? Like if I was going to do it, what would I do? And then I had this idea in the shower of like, I was like, oh, what if I wrote it from the point of view of bystanders? Like we see Princess Leia and Han Solo, and Chewbacca and Luke. Like if we see them from the point of view of sort of the man on the street, or like a stormtrooper, or somebody that gets saved by Luke, or like a rebel, just a rebel soldier that's a bystander. I was like, if I told the story from their point of view about them, and then their perception of Luke, their perception of Leia and Chewie, I was like, that would be interesting. And then I was like, oh well, I could do that, and I could do 4 issues, and every issue is sort of focused on one of the main characters, but it's told from the point of view of just a normal person. And I felt like I could do that story because the point of view that I was taking was my point of view. It was me, and what it would be like, to be next to Luke while he's fighting. What's that like? And so I feel like I could put myself in that space and bring something to Star Wars that I hadn't seen before, that was still respectful of the characters, and I didn't have to add lore to the characters. All I had to do was look at the characters from the eyes of a kid in '76 watching that movie and be like, wow, like how cool is this person? Or like, Chewie really does smell. When you stand next to him, he's kind of gross smelling, So I felt like if I could write it, if they accepted that idea, then I could write it, because I'm not trying to add anything to it. I'm just, in a way, it's like the ultimate fan fiction, where I'm just a fan of these characters, and I want to imagine what it would be like to be next to them, and then they liked that idea, and I was able to write it. And I think the only lore or anything I added was how they got the shield generators, the Hawk. Super nerdy, but the idea that the whole thing was they were working on a mission to smuggle the technology to get the shield generators put up on Hoth, and that's what the 4 issues is about. So that was the only thing that had to be approved as far as like continuity, and can we do it, and is there any story that's already had that before, and they cleared that, and then it was super fun to write. But yeah, I don't want to write another thing. I just want to be a fan. Yeah.
Every now and then, artists I follow with the script, they would do like the color or too bright for me. Any ones like that stand out that you got?
The color, what is it? Well, so
Really review like the color of the picture.
Oh, is there any review I have of that, or a review that someone's given to me?
I think review of your work.
Oh, a review of my work?
Review.
Yeah, there's my favorite review, and I kind of skim reviews. I don't really read them all. Sometimes I do. If I've done something like tricky, I'll read a review to see how it's being picked up, or if it's being perceived correctly, or whatever, to see if it's working. To me, that's what reviews are good for. But then my favorite review is this one that Jeff Lemire, he will email me a link to it once a year, and I think it's on Goodreads. I think you can find it on Goodreads, and it's for Revolver, and it's the absolute meanest review I've ever read of any book. And it's this person wrote this, and it's just the worst review I've ever read of anything I've ever done, and it's so mean, but it's super funny, and of course Jeff thinks it's hilarious. but we trade. He's got a couple that I sent him. If he sends it to me, I send him one of his bed reviews. But no, I think I just think they're kind of funny, and it's okay. I think put our stuff out in public. You should be able to take the criticism.
Taylor what's your favorite Jack Kirby?
My favorite Jack Kirby comic, probably Hunger Dogs is the first thing I'd ever read of his. It was the standalone graphic novel that they published back in the 80s, I guess. So I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one that got me onto Kirby. It's the one where I remember at the time, me and my brother sort of had a rivalry as like who our favorite artist was, or who the best artist was, and I think he was arguing for John Byrne, and then I found that, and I was like, no, Jack Kirby's the best, and I remember at the time, and it's different now, but because I think as you get older, you appreciate Kirby more. But I think I like Kirby to spite my brother, and I don't know that I actually like Kirby all the way until I got older, and then you appreciate like his creativity, and then everything he put into it. So Hunger Dogs, followed by all the New Gods stuff, and those new collections of Dark Horse or DC did, the hardcovers with the sort of like newsprint paper. Those are the best. All right, good. All right, is that it? Are we done for the day? All right, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for another one. We'll do this again soon-ish.